Why at some point you'll have to disown your family. You'll have to. You'll be left with no choice, not because you wanted to disown your family, not because you wanted to cut off all ties with your family. It was never really your choice, but you were pushed to that point. One day you will wake up feeling very tired, very exhausted, very depleted because of all the abuse, whether emotional, verbal, God forbid, physical abuse. For me, it has been emotional, verbal, and psychological abuse that I have suffered from my sister and my mother for the longest time. And it's only this year in my late 20s that I realized that I have been experiencing this type of abuse. I wasn't aware of it, and I think a lot of people are not aware of it because sometimes it's an undercover type of abuse. That's what I like to think of it as. Very undercover, very subtle, very something you'd miss. The type of people who hurt you indirectly, but over the years you start to see the damage. My damage even got as far as me quitting my job because I wasn't coping. I was very anxious. I was very self-conscious. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't have any confidence. And all of those things were the results of the subtle undercover abuse, the verbal, emotional, and psychological abuse. I never really want to specify it as verbal abuse because I think verbal abuse tends to be more direct, like people calling you stupid or ugly or useless. But with my family, it was never really that direct. There was a level of verbal abuse, but it was more delivered in a very psychological, emotional, undercover type of manner, whereby there wasn't really the direct type of name calling, type of abuse, but the way that it was indirectly delivered, it landed and it did the damage that I think they wanted it to do. Whether they did it intentionally or not, I always say it really doesn't matter. And I really don't freaking care at this point. I don't care if you meant to hurt me or you didn't mean to hurt me. The point is, you hurt me. And that's really just the point. That's it. I'm hurt. Doesn't matter if you meant it or you didn't mean to, you hurt me. And with my family, whether they meant to or didn't mean to, they still wouldn't own up to it. So it really doesn't, it makes no difference with them. The number of times I've tried to communicate how I feel, to communicate how they make me feel. And sometimes it would be an excuse of saying, oh, I didn't mean it like that. But still, they wouldn't fully own the fact that they had hurt me, because whether you meant to hurt someone or you didn't, you still should take accountability for the fact that you ended up hurting someone. Somehow, unfortunately, we do hurt each other unintentionally. I mean, I have hurt some people unintentionally, but when they made me realize, when they brought it up to me, when they addressed it, I took the accountability, the responsibility to acknowledge and validate their feelings and apologize. If it was something that I truly didn't mean to do or say that was meant to hurt them, I apologize. But never with my family, never with this psychologically and emotionally abusive family, specifically my sister and my mother. And it's exhausting. It is exhausting dealing with them because these are the type of people that never self-introspect, that never reflect, that never see their own flaws and how they've wronged other people. They never take the time to fully acknowledge how they are impacting other people negatively, how they are hurting, damaging, destroying other people's self-esteem. They can never get to a level of fully acknowledging that. And more than anything, it seems like they can't get to a level where they even change their behavior. Instead of changing their behavior, their way of abuse just changes. I think that's what I've realized with my family, that since there've been a couple of times where I've tried, and Lord knows I've tried to bring it to their attention that, there are ways that they've affected my self-esteem, some of the things they say, some of the things they do, some of the ways they make me feel. Instead of really seeing a true change in them, I am seeing their techniques of abuse just changing. So it's just the same movie, just a different script, or what should I say? I don't know. It's just a different technique. But basically, now I'm at a point where I see that they might not change. And this is where it leads me to saying that at some point I might have to disown my family. And that sounds so dramatic. That sounds so unnecessary. That sounds so harsh. That's something that I would have never thought would come out of my mouth, to say that I would disown my family. I would cut all ties with my family. As of yet, I am still living with my family. Obviously, we're in full communication because I'm living with them full time, but I feel like I just can no longer do this. I can no longer do this because I am on a journey of healing the damage that they did. I am healing from that. I am taking medication for anxiety. Sometimes I have to take sleeping pills because of how fast my thoughts can race and how insecure I can get, and how I can just get in these moments where I feel like my emotions are closing in on me, and it's overwhelming and I don't know what to do. I find myself just thinking about a lot of things and feeling worthless, and that is all because of them. That is mainly because of them. If it is for any other reason that I have so much anxiety and doubt and this and that, any other reason, it probably makes 2%, because 98% is mainly because of my family, the reason I feel the way that I feel. And because I'm on this healing journey and I'm living with my family and I'm full time living with my family, it makes it so hard to heal properly. Because as I'm trying to heal, sometimes certain things happen where they are taking jabs again at my self-esteem, where the emotional and psychological abuse is still around, just in different ways. And it's very tiring, it's very exhausting. One of the first few things I heard when I started understanding what narcissistic personality disorder is, when I started understanding what an emotional unavailable mother is, an emotional unavailable family is, I started understanding really what toxicity and unhealthiness lies within my family and I realized that a lot of people were saying that eventually you're going to have to cut ties with these people because they're most likely never going to change, and it's just going to keep hurting you and exhausting you. And I didn't want to believe that. I honestly didn't, because it sounded so dramatic. I was like, no, it's not going to get to a point where I have to like cut ties with my family. You know, that's something I've never done before. That's something that's never happened. We've always been in touch. Even when I was in varsity, even when I was working far away from home, we've always kept in touch. I've always came back home and visited. There's just no way where I'm just going to cut my family out of my life, and a couple of months down the line and I feel like I just want to cut them out of my life. I never want to speak to them and I never want to see them. And you know what the crazy thing is? If I did that, they wouldn't even know why. Even if I did tell them why, that, hey, there's been a lot of emotional abuse within this family. You've affected my self-esteem, my self-worth. You've affected my being, my humanhood, so to speak. They still wouldn't understand. I would be the melodramatic one. They still wouldn't understand what I'm saying. And I would still be the one in the wrong. I would still be the one who decided to abandon the family. I would still be the one somehow who's in the wrong, and not them, not the abusers. Of course, they wouldn't be in the wrong because they're never in the wrong. They never see how much they hurt other people, how much they've hurt me, how much my own mother has hurt me, how much my own sister has hurt me. Because my sister is just a duplicate of my mother. And no wonder she's a duplicate. She was the golden child. So she really took after my mother. Did me no favors in having any sort of meaningful relationship with my sister. I mean, on the surface, it seemed like we had a meaningful relationship. And for the longest time, it seemed like we were really getting along. We were the closest siblings. I mean, this is what people say about us. Oh, you guys are so close. It's so nice how you guys are always just together. You go to places together. And that was because I was tolerating the abuse. That was the only reason it seemed like we had a meaningful and a strong siblinghood. It's because I was tolerating the abuse. Same thing goes to my mother. It seemed like we were this family that got along, that was always together, that loves each other so much, but that was simply because I was tolerating the abuse. And now that I'm no longer tolerating the abuse, I can obviously see the cracks. I mean, maybe from outside it doesn't show, but I can see the cracks that it just shows that the foundation was never solid. It was never the right foundation that we had for our family. And I'm at a point where I feel exhausted. I feel so tired. I'm tired at the core, and I can't keep doing this. I can't keep having to explain why I feel the way I feel and having them not understand. Because honestly, if I really talked about the things they do to me and how I feel, as my sister once suggested, she said, please always talk to me. Let's communicate. Let's let each other know, if something's wrong. If I really did that, I would speak every day and I would seem like I'm the nagging one. I would seem like I'm the overly sensitive one, overly emotional one. I would seem like I'm the one who's holding grudges. I would seem like I'm the one who's easily hurt. But that's not true. I'm not overly sensitive. I'm not overly emotional. I'm not easily hurt. I am just hurt by the people that I love. Well, do I still love them? That is a question at this moment. I'm not even sure if I still love them, but I am hurt by my own family. And if I really did take the time to talk to them about this, it would be an everyday thing. And then I would seem like I'm unreasonable. I would seem like I'm always looking for something wrong that they say or do. So it's exhausting because I can't always be pointing out what they do, because they do it a lot. I mean, I live with my family, so almost every day there is some joke or jab at my self-esteem, at who I am. And the only reason, because it doesn't happen as much anymore, it's because I've taken this mode of just being, this is a funny word, unenterable. Like, I've taken this mode of putting up this wall that they can kind of see that they can't really get through. Like they can kind of see that now they're not really able. It's not so easy for them to make those jokes or take jabs at me. And the reason it was easier before, it's because sometimes I would just laugh along, or I would react and be angry, which apparently is something that's the type of reaction they want. Like, I swear, I feel like I live with crazy people, like mentally disturbed people. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm in a house of nut people, like crazy people, literally clinically crazy people, because a lot of the research, a lot of what I listen to when it comes to the type of family I have, a lot of people do confirm that that's what they want. They want a reaction from you, whether it's good or bad. So sometimes I would just, laugh it out and pretend like it didn't hurt me, or I would get angry, which is exactly what they want. They want to make you feel something, they want to sting you. And so me being angry would actually just be exactly the type of reaction they wanted, to make me feel small, to make me angry, to get me to react. Apparently that's called reactive abuse, where someone provokes you or stings you or takes a jab at you, makes a joke or belittles you just to get a reaction from you. It's so psychotic. It is so psychotic. Like, really? And these are the people that you would meet today. Like, you would think, when you meet my mother and my sister, you would think you're going to meet these horrible people who are just going to say horrible things to you and you're just going to instantly hate them. No. In fact, you would instantly love them, because they're very charming. They're very seemingly welcoming. They very quote unquote, as they always like to say, they're very lovable. You would love them. You would get along with them. You want to spend your time with them. These are the type of people that I'm talking about. But once you really, really start to get to know them, and because it happens in such a subtle, again, in a very undercover manner, it will take you some time to realize that since you've known them, you no longer feel as good about yourself. Or that whenever you've had like an interaction with them, you don't really feel good about yourself, or you doubt yourself, because this is the type of abuse that they make you feel like you are small. They make you doubt yourself, doubt your opinion, doubt your view, doubt anything you do. They make you question yourself. They make you feel small. They reduce you. They want to make you feel worthless. And this is because that's how they feel inside. They feel worthless. And so that's how they exactly want to make you feel. They doubt themselves so much that that's how they want to make you feel. But what's sad is that they don't have the introspective ability to see that what they are trying to make excuse me, to see that what they are trying to make other people feel is what they feel about themselves. So no, they don't realize that they actually hate themselves so much that they are actually trying to get other people to hate themselves. Because that's where my family got me. They got me to a point where I hated myself, where I felt worthless, useless, not smart enough, not good enough, not pretty enough, because that's exactly how they feel about themselves. So instead of addressing their own issues, their coping mechanism is making you feel exactly how they feel about themselves. Because how dare you be confident when they are not? How dare you be smart when they don't feel smart? How dare you be secure in yourself when they don't feel secure? How dare you do not care about what other people think when they care so much about what other people think? And so all of those insecurities and issues they have, they place them on you. It becomes a burden on you. And it takes a while to realize that all of the things that you start feeling, the self-doubt, the low self-esteem, all of that, it's because you know this person. It's because of my mother and my sister. I've mentioned before that I now see why some of my sister's friends just disappeared in her life. There was a period where, she'd be hurt by some of her friends who just like randomly disappeared, ghosted her, didn't follow up or put in the effort to maintain the relationship. And I really felt sorry for her. I was also wondering, I was with her through that time. I was like, oh, your friends are so rude, how can you just disappear on someone? But now I realize some of those friends, they started catching on that they feel terrible about themselves because of my sister, because that's how she makes you feel. And my sister is even worse. I don't even know whether to say worse but I feel like my sister is a heightened version of my mother, because she not only makes you feel horrible about yourself in a very not so easy detectable way, but also she's just very negative, very cynical. She's always coming up with the worst case scenario, like this is the worst thing that could happen, or this person shouldn't have done it this way. She always has something negative to say. She always has something negative. And when you try to put in a positive spin to it or a positive view, she tries to drag you to where she is so that you can end up agreeing with her negative point. Like it's the most exhausting thing ever. And I'm tired. I'm tired. I am exhausted of dealing with the same thing over and over again. And now that I'm aware of it, I do think it I don't know if it's more exhausting, because when I was not aware, it was like I was getting hurt, but I wasn't sure where the pain was coming from. Like it was just like a bee stinging you, but you don't even see the bee where it is. But now that I know that the bee is around and I can identify the bee, that, oh, that's the bee that's stinging, I feel like, I don't even know what to say, because I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And now I can see why so many people who have also suffered from narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, I see why they say that eventually you have to cut these people out of your life, because it's exhausting having to deal with the same thing over and over again. And especially when you are trying to heal and trying to be a better person, they drag you back. They hold you back. I feel like my healing would be much better if I was elsewhere, if I had my own place, if I didn't even live in the same area as my family, not even in the same province. Like, I just want to be far away. Like, take me even overseas so that I don't, because now I'm at a point where I realize that I think when I first moved out of home going to varsity, it was an escape. And at that time, I wasn't fully aware and hadn't recognized and realized that there was so much abuse, but I knew that my family didn't make me feel good about myself. So when I left for varsity, I was really excited to get away from them. But at that time, I still really considered them my family. I loved them. They still meant so much to me because I didn't fully grasp how much they were destroying me. Yes, they were destroying me. But now that I realize how much they hate themselves so much that they're setting out to destroy other people, because it's not just me. It's just that I get to experience more of their abuse because I live with them. But it's not just me. Like, you really have to notice that this type of behavior, it even sips into their other relationships, friendships, with colleagues, with people that they know, because this is just who they are. They're very negative, very cynical, very abusive, very hateful, very vengeful. Just, this is who they are. But I've just experienced more of that because I obviously, grew up with my family, lived here full time, and I get to see more of them. Now that I'm back home and I've realized this, and I want to get away and live somewhere else and live far away from them, I think this time it wouldn't be an escape. I wouldn't be escaping them. I wouldn't be running away. I would be making a reasonable decision to distance and separate myself from this toxic, unhealthy environment. But that doesn't mean the healing would stop. I would still need to take the steps to heal. And the steps that I've been taking is journaling. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I don't want to do it. Like, sometimes I can go days without doing it. But I try to journal how I feel. One of the ways that's always really suggested is to face the feelings, because in this family, one of the things that I was never really allowed to do is to feel things. I remember one time I was worried that NSFAS was not going to pay my funding for university, and this is the time where, like, my graduation was approaching. So obviously, if NSFAS didn't pay my funding, I wouldn't graduate. So I was worried about that, and my mother kind of snapped at me and said, "Why are you even worrying about that?" And again, this goes back to how she feels inside. This is, I guess, how she has coped and survived, that you don't really feel the pain, you just snap out of it. And I remember just sitting there kind of frozen, thinking to myself, am I not allowed to worry? Am I not allowed to worry about this instance that warrants me, that I have every right to worry about? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like I wanted to worry, like have sleepless nights about this, but I was just expressing how I felt. And in that moment, I needed to feel like that. And I needed my family to be there with me and just, comfort me in a gentle, loving way, not just snap at me and tell me not to worry about things. So one of the things that I've been learning is to feel my feelings. If I'm angry, feel it. And especially if I take the time to feel it, it means it's not going to be prolonged. It's not going to take forever to get over it because I deal with it in the moment. So if I'm upset at the moment, take the time to actually be upset. Because if you avoid being upset right now, you might end up being upset about this thing for a longer period of time because you never took the time to be upset about the thing at the right time. So sometimes I find it very hard to sit down and feel my feelings. Sometimes I write them down. Sometimes I just read a scripture. And it's hard. It's hard to just feel those feelings because I'm not used to that. Which makes me realize that part of the abuse from my mother was just kind of always demanding that I snap out of my feelings. But she had every right. Like my mother, when she wanted to worry or stress about something, or be upset or be angry or cry over something, we as her children would comfort her. And obviously, we wouldn't snap at her to like just shake it off or like snap out of it. We wouldn't do that. We would be there for her. And this is part of like the narcissistic mother personality, where she's allowed to feel things, certain things. Like it's very double standard. Like she's allowed to do certain things, but then her children are not allowed to do it. And for us, with our narcissistic mother, we were not allowed to feel things, because I guess in her psychotic mind, she's the only one who is allowed to feel things. But at the same time, sometimes I would see her being hard on herself for feeling things. Like it's all very messy. It's all very chaotic. It's all very, like, it can drive you insane. Like, I thank God that I'm not like crazy. Like, because I feel like with all that has happened, like watching and experiencing my mother's radical behavior, like inconsistent behavior, like my mother is the most inconsistent person. Like with me just saying that sometimes like she would want us to comfort her because it was okay for her to feel things, but then sometimes you would see her being hard on herself for feeling things, like almost like trying to snap herself out of feeling this emotion. It was very confusing, very inconsistent, very, very crazy making. Like, I feel like crazy is the one word that keeps popping up, and I don't even care if it's psychologically not the right word to use or it's not politically correct. I don't care. It's crazy. It is crazy. And I thank the Lord that I've had a meltdown, so I guess I survived, but I can't take it anymore. I think being with my family, being around my family, keeping in touch with my family, I feel like it's keeping me going in circles, and I don't want to be part of their crazy world. So in as much as right now I'm still at home full time with my family, but as I continue to look for a job, I am really, really considering like cutting ties with my family. It's one thing that I want to move away from my home, from my family specifically. But even having moved away, I think I would still eventually want to cut ties. I'm at a point where I don't feel like me moving away, being in a different place or far away from my family. I don't think however kilometers away from my family is going to help the situation. I think eventually I'm going to have to disown my family. I think eventually I'm going to have to cut ties with my family, because they are still not ready to realize how horrible and evil they can be. They are still not ready to make the necessary changes. And how can they make the changes when they don't even realize that they need change? Because in their own crazy minds, they are fine. They're fine. And I know I'm sounding very aggressive and I sound like I'm just talking badly about my family, but that's where I am. That's where I am. I don't like them, and I don't even want to say the word hate, but honestly, that's just how I feel. I'm tired. I'm tired of dealing with these people and their same behavior and their inconsistencies and them changing the type. Because even with my mother, I look back and I realize that as children, the emotional and psychological abuse was different. And when we got to our teenage years, it was different. When we got to our 20s. So I'm seeing a pattern that instead of her changing and being a better mother and being a supportive, caring, loving, affectionate, compassionate mother, no, she is just changing ways of manipulating us, of playing games with our mind, of trying to keep us in a grip, in her control. That is all I'm seeing. I'm not seeing the loving mother that I've always craved for, that I've always longed for. Instead, I'm seeing her changing her ways, or maybe even so, upping her game, because she now realizes that, oh, they are growing, they are adults, they have their own minds, they can make up their own minds, so it's no longer easy to abuse or manipulate them. So instead of being actually a loving and a good mother, she's actually changing her ways of being abusive. She's being more abusive, more manipulative, getting more strategic with how she can manipulate us, just that it's no longer that easy for her to do that. And that's why I'm tired. That's why I think one day I will probably cut all ties with my family, disown my family. It might not be today, but honest to God, I feel like it will be pretty soon, because I cannot take this abuse any longer.